So all of these have been cleaned, and I did buy these are the, I want to say 3/16. I forget whatever they are. They're the bigger ones that you use to close these guys. And I bought the end for this guy. And that is why I bought this instead of the smaller one, because there is a smaller one. This one will actually do these bigger rivets, whereas the smaller one won't. So we'll see what happens here. So here I go. And it's a 10-to-1. It's part B and this is part A. Yeah, it's a 10-to-1 mix ratio. And I have my little thing here. I got a couple of spoons. We're gonna see what happens. Ounces. Let's do grams. I'm gonna do grams. I'm gonna do grams just because Baldman building a plane, he said that he did a 25 to 2.5 gram for each of his ribs on the tanks, which is more than I need for just the little bit that I'm doing right now. So I'm thinking I'm gonna do...
At this point, I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do, so I cut it out.
That is 10 grams. So now if I add 1 gram of the other stuff, I should be good to go.
And this is the first time that I was doing this, so I was... It's difficult the very first time. Now that I've done it like 17 different times, it's a lot easier. But I was trying to keep stuff kind of, in my mind where they needed to go and everything.
My daughter brought me a cookie.
Yeah.
So obviously this is the first time that I break out the tank sealant. And so trying to get it all figured out, and you'll realize that as you learn new skills and they give you these new things that you need to do, the very first time is pretty heavy, it's pretty intensive, but after you figure it out, it actually gets really easy. So I'll show here real quick a image of the 4 pieces that I'll do in the next set of videos, but just so you could kind of see the progression of you get a little bit better each and every time. And that's why I think they have you start with kind of these easy, simple things, so you don't really screw them up, but you get a little bit too much stuff on it. It's kind of spread everywhere. It's kind of ugly. It's just a mess. But then as you refine your skills, you get a little bit better. It looks a little bit better. And then when you get to the actual ribs and the stuff that's actually going to show up on the outside, like your fill cap and your drain plug, they actually look halfway decent. So all of this other stuff is hidden and you're never going to see it anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I think that's why they start that way. But you get better as you go. But while we are here, I figured I would do a couple of dad jokes. So the first one is you need to watch what you say around the egg whites because they can't take a yolk. That's just dumb. Oh, I tell you. So where do pumpkins have their meetings? In the gourd room. Gourd room. That's so bad. Oh, okay. So there you go. There's your dad jokes. Feel free to share those with your kids. They will probably look at you funny and make fun of you, but that's okay. So all I'm really doing, the funny part is in this entire video, I spend an inordinate amount of time sealing in 4 rivets on each, well, 2 rivets on each piece. So that inboard skin aft, the inboard skin forward on both tanks. And there's 2 holes in each of them that need to get filled in. And so it's basically 4 rivets per side per inboard rib of the tank. So 8 total rivets. And it did take some time. It took a lot more than I kind of expected, but I got used to it, and now I'm much faster, obviously. And also, if I had all the money in the world, I probably would have reordered those parts and redid them, just because I could do a much better job now. So, be that as it may. But the squeezer, I did show a picture of the squeezer. I did get the bigger one because I did know that I would have to squeeze a couple of the bigger rivets. And looking back on it, I probably should have gotten the smaller one with the yoke head on it, where you actually got 2 heads, I think, instead of just the one, and because I had to buy the extra um, squeezer part to, or not the squeezer, but the yoke. Um, if I was doing it again, I might not get the bigger one. It is bigger. It is a little bit heavier, and it does have plenty of power. It'll squeeze whatever rivets you want it to squeeze. That's for sure, but not necessarily needed. I would probably opt for the smaller one. It's a little bit better price. You get an extra yoke, and really, we're talking about 8 rivets. So probably not worth it. It's probably just as easy to do what Van says in the instructions, and that's to put it on a solid surface and just bang it with a hammer to set the rivet. That would probably work just as well. So I don't know if I would spend the extra money on that. Am I glad that I got it? Sure, it made this particular, you know, exercise a little bit easier, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't know if I would do that again. I would probably um, save the extra money or use the difference to buy like the 4-inch no hole flat nose squeezer yoke, or maybe the 1-inch one, so you could do the tank, the fuel caps. I looking back on it, I probably would have spent the money in a different location instead of on the squeezer. So, long story short, if you have the money, go buy both of them. How's that? That would be great. I wish we all had enough money to do that, but you do what you do, I guess. Um, as I'm putting those in there, the bigger the rivet to um, they're not exactly the right size. I should have cut those 3/16 rivets down because they're only going through 1 sheet of metal. And so they were a little bit longer than they should have been for that particular application. Um, it worked. It squeezed them. Not all of them were perfectly straight, but then again, you're only trying to plug holes. You're not exactly. Has nothing to do with, strength or integrity. Integrity of anything. It's basically fill the hole, so it doesn't link. That's all you're really doing at this point with the um, with filling with using those rivets. But looking back on it, I probably should have shaved them down, so they weren't as long. So when it did squeeze them, it put more of a perfectly symmetrical shop head on the back of them. So live and learn. As always, we learn as we go, and we learn new things. I did find a new website. I will leave it in the thing of a guy doing tanks for an RV-8. And he had some pretty good ideas. He kind of, showed where he messed up on the right wing and then showed where he fixed stuff on the left wing. So I would highly recommend watching the left wing videos because they're the better ones, I think. But hey, we learn as we go and we fix the mistakes as we make them, and it makes us better builders, I guess. I actually might consider myself somewhat of an airplane builder at this point. Not good by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm pretty sure I can do it. So there you go. Have fun. See ya.
Okay, so first soiree into the tank sealant, and it wasn't horribly bad. It was not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it wasn't horribly bad either, so I guess that's good. They ended up, I mean, looking halfway decent. It's probably a little bit too much on the outsides of these things, so probably a little bit too much, but I think they're pretty coated. I think they got a goodly amount of stuff around them, but they're in there like they're supposed to, so not too bad, I guess. I don't know. We'll find out when I try to pressure test them. That's when we will know if I did a good job or not. So that's where we're at. See ya.